Hello everyone, very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all of you. This is your host Vaibhav. In today's session of correlation and regression, we will be considering the price developments in the day as well as in the week, so we get a good idea of how things are likely to the newly released trading platform from the Dukascopy Bank SA. We have to look for the chart. Now, if we have to consider the trade in today's session, we will have to be a bit cautious here as we don't really have much time left, and with that we will have to look for the opportunities in which we can make a quick buck and exit, but those kind of opportunities are always difficult to come by, so we will have to be patient and see how things are and only get involved, go for a trade if you have sufficient confidence of getting the trade right in right amount of time. Else it is better to sit on the sidelines and maybe come back on Monday to trade again, start the day, start the week afresh. Now if we consider the momentum, the AUD was trading with these bullish buyers until up to these very close to the US session. We had this fresh high, this day's high, which was just little shy of 0.70 mark. But after that, all these gains evaporated, and we saw there's almost 1 percentage point decline for the AUD. And same story was visible for other major currencies against the dollar. And the dollar gained, and we saw the currencies like Euro, GBP, NZD, CHF, and even CAD losing. But JPY, even in this turnaround of sort, the JPY was holding firm. And if we look at the charting for major currencies today, the JPY is the clear winner, which has appreciated against almost all of the major currencies, and it has continued to trade with strong bullish momentum in today's session also. In yesterday the story was similar, and today the same story is continuing with getting the JPY towards the levels which were not really seen in last many months, couple of months at least. Now, if we have to consider the relative strength and the weakness of the AUD, we will have to take into account these swing low and the swing high formation. So let us now turn to the comparative part. In Euro, we saw steep decline from 1.087 towards 1.078. So this was almost 90 pips decline, and then again this climb back from those lows to almost 50 pips up. But if we compare the price movement of the euro with the AUD, we will see some lag. Earlier in the day, in terms of the decline, the euro was leading. It started to decline quite early, and then this swing low, 4 hourly low, was made at 13:05 GMT, and for AUD it was a bit later on. But then the magnitude of decline for AUD accelerated, and it declined more than 1 percentage point, whereas in case of euro the decline was not that big in terms of the magnitude. Now, as we have this fresh swing high formation here, the AUD seems to be slightly better placed, but not much. In terms of the timeline of this swing high, it is almost similar. So we will have to give more or less equal weightage to the price developments in the euro as well as in the AUD. Maybe you can go and put euro slightly ahead of the AUD just because it has not declined that much in terms of the percentage, but otherwise it is almost the same. Now let's compare the NZD as well. For NZD, we saw it gaining substantially earlier, but these gains were quite strong for the NZD. Then it started to decline as well, but it was lagging in this bearish momentum, and it was trading quite strong in comparison to the AUD and the euro. And if we look at the percentage of decline, it declined all the way from 0.6415 to 0.6335. So it is also more than 1 percentage point. And now its trajectory of the rise is almost similar to what we are observing for the AUD. It is looking a bit weaker compared to the euro. Euro in this pullback is looking stronger in comparison to the NZD, but more or less the momentum is now against these major currencies, and it is with the dollar. So we will have to look for opportunities to go short in almost all these major currencies while we wait on further appreciation of the US dollar till we have any sort of fresh move which gets the NZD above this prior swing high. Till then, at least we have to keep looking for short selling opportunities for next couple of hours at the minimum. So in that case, the euro is apparently little bit stronger compared to the AUD and NZD as well. The price trajectory of the NZD and the AUD is almost the same, with this decline being quite strong in percentage term. Now, if we consider the price formation of GBP, GBP made this high at 1.225, almost that level, and from there on it declined around 100 pips, but in percentage terms the decline is less compared to the AUD and the NZD's decline. And also now in its reversal, the GBP is starting to gain whatever was lost earlier, so it is looking strong. So even though the major momentum is with the dollar, we still have to place the GBP ahead of the NZD and the AUD. It is almost similar in its rise with the euro, so there is not much of a difference. Maybe you can give some more weightage to the GBP, simply looking at its magnitude of the rise, but the major trend for all these currencies is looking bearish, and the strongest is the NZD and the AUD, and these European currencies, the GBP and the Euro, are following these Asia Pacific peers. Now let's consider USD CAD, USD CHF, and USD JPY, where we have to invert the chart, as in this case the USD is the first currency. For CAD also, the decline started and it extended all the way from 1.332 to 1.344. So that is also the gain for USD CAD of around 1 percentage point, not exactly, but still around that, and that puts it in a bearish territory. The CAD is looking bearish for the day against the dollar, and the same story we saw is true for many other major currencies trading against the dollar. So dollar is looking quite good so far in the session, and at least for next couple of hours we will do well to keep looking for the opportunities to go long in the dollar while keeping an eye on these currencies to go short. Now in relative terms, the USD CAD is, I think, one of the best placed currency cross to go for a long trade. The CAD is looking much more bearish compared to what we are observing for NZD, AUD, Euro, and GBP, which have now made fresh 4-hourly highs. But for CAD, it didn't really make any fresh 4-hourly low. So that means the correction in CAD is shallower than what we are observing in other currencies. So that puts the CAD as the weakest currency, the most bearish against the dollar. And we will do well to keep an eye on going for a trade in a long side for the USD CAD. Before we can say that the CAD is the most bearish, we also have to consider the price formation of the USD CHF. And USD CHF is less bearish than the CAD, at least. That is something which we can surely say, as it has also gone on to make this fresh 4-hourly low. Now for this decline, if it has to be considered and compared with the decline which we are observing in other major currencies, the CHF is less bearish than most other major currencies against the dollar, as it made this swing low at 17:35 GMT. For other major currencies, this is happening later on. So we now have the CHF as the least bearish, and we have CAD as the most bearish, but we have the JPY, which is in a different league altogether. We have the USD JPY with the strongest bullish momentum. So while other currencies are trading in the bearish manner against the dollar, but we have the JPY which is appreciating even against the dollar, which is quite strong in today's session. So here the USD JPY is the instrument you can go for a short sale trade. You can continue to have the trade in the USD JPY with the expectation of further decline, but of course you will have to give it more time, maybe consolidation, and if you have good enough correction from the current levels and do consolidation, then I think it will be better to go for a short sale trade. Right now the risk reward ratio is not really going to be in favor of fresh short sell trade, and it is not really advisable to go for any long trade either. For that we have the USD CAD, which can be the currency instrument of choice for going any long trade, whereas the USD JPY is the instrument where we can go short. And as I have said, we have the bearishness in major currencies. The dollar is trading strong against most major currencies apart from JPY. JPY is stronger than even the dollar. So we saw this whole spectrum of currencies where the CAD is the most bearish, USD CHF is the least bearish, and JPY is strongly bullish against the dollar. Now let's turn our gaze to the equity segment. In equity segment, after the start of the US session, we saw this sharp move on the lower side, but all those losses have now evaporated, and it looks like that Dow is trying to climb further with this reversal in today's session. So if we put it in backdrop of the prior moves, it has continued to trade with this bullish bias, and same thing it is doing in today's session also with this buy on dip strategy, providing us with profitable opportunities. Now that it has climbed quite close to the immediate swing high, it will be a bit difficult for initiation of the new trade. We will have to adopt a cautious stance here. The underlying momentum is still strongly bullish, so we will have to wait for it to maybe rise further and consolidate on those higher levels. But if you go for a new trade at the moment, that is going to extend your risk quite a lot, as we have the Dow Jones Industrial Average trading closer to the immediate swing high. But maybe if you see some sort of correction happening, and again you get the Dow Jones Industrial Average bit closer to this immediate swing low, that can be the moment to go for a new trade, and that will have a much better risk reward ratio also. Now if we consider the price formation of the Dow in comparison to the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, we have the most bullish momentum in Nasdaq in today's session, whereas the least bullish momentum is there for the S&P 500. All these three equity indices are mostly bullish for this session after this prior correction and this sharp turnaround. But in relative terms, we have this Nasdaq, which is now consolidating closer to this higher low. It has already made a fresh swing high above this prior swing high, and its gains from the lower levels are also quite significant in comparison to the gains which we are observing for the Dow and the S&P 500, which have also climbed up quite a lot. So in this backdrop, I think we will do well to keep an eye on Nasdaq for further correction toward this immediate swing low, and as close as it can get to the swing low, it is going to reduce the risk for us while enlarging the reward on the higher side. So in these three equity indices for the United States, we have this correlational analysis done with the Nasdaq being the leader of the pack on the higher side, while S&P 500 following these two other major equity indices. For European segment, the story is almost similar. There is not much of a difference in the price formation of the DAX as well. So same thing, correction first and then reversal again to erase all of these prior losses. Now, as we are wrapping up the session, let's take a last look at the FTSE 100. So it looks like that the FTSE 100 was the instrument, the equity index with the most bullish momentum, and it remains so. So after having this move, which is